Yo, what's going on, guys? This is the final video of the road to plus 20. Originally it was a 4-part series, but we knocked it down to 3 because the last 2 episodes that I had some music playing in the background that wouldn't be approved by YouTube. So we're going to go ahead and just cut that video out. Quick recap, it was a 19 necrotic wake. Ultimately could have timed the key, but there was a lot of small just mistakes, whether that was the weapon placement on either ads or bosses, and then just silly little wipes. At the end, we wiped the final boss 3 times. Just kind of took that practice run, turned it into an 18, and did a +2 on that one. So that's how we bounced back and got to the Spires of Ascension +20. You'll see that it's a fortified, spiteful, necrotic, weak, and encrypted as well. So go ahead and finish up this first pack here. We're going to move on to the Goliath. I think we take it up to the 3 mobs at the top. Just want to make sure that we're kicking the Rebellious Fist. And then that we're going to go ahead and splash our damage onto these mobs here. Now one of them goes ahead and casts an ability that gives a stacking buff to them. You want to make sure that you purge it off of the target and then also pick it up for yourself. You can use it against some mobs, so tons of damage here. And then we're going to just focus our kicks regularly.
Interrupt.
This shit starts to sting a little. Especially since I don't have that much shit that helps against magic.
Interrupt. Interrupt.
Do we want to CC that guy? Just for damage control?
Who?
The fucking healer guy.
Yeah. Do we need to?
Just go for it.
Yeah, just go for it. We need to start just going for things.
We do. We just die a lot.
Yeah, but I don't think the Mender's gonna kill us here. Or has in a long time. Again, quick overview. Force 1 Mender, kick the Forsworn Doctrine, heals 10% per second, so you can let it get off and purge it, or you can just kick it to negate it. Burden of Knowledge from the Castigator, random damage, lots of damage, leaving Dispellable Dot, take care of that. Rebellious Fist is going to be the main cast, and then you just want to make sure that you're avoiding the Sweeping Blow. Now, leading into this pack on other groups, it might be a good idea to paralysis and rob the Mender away. It's going to be on the right-hand side, and most of the time it's going to be the Inspired Mob on those weeks. So it's good if you want to separate, but if you don't need to, no big deal.
Interrupt.
Don't call me Jughead. Enough, right?
We're of course going to start the fight by prioritizing damage on her so we can get the cooldown reduction. I want to make sure that I get that killed as fast as possible, that way I can get my Zuen back up. And then just on my cooldown so I can roll into the fight. This fight is pretty straightforward. There's 2 ads, Kintara and Azul's.
To being a real cockbag.
They share health, so we just want to make sure that we can cleave whenever possible. Now, when they're both on the floor, they have a line that goes between them, so if you cross over that line, you get a dot that deals a ton of damage to you. So typically, you know, you want to have these 2 stacked, but if people are just getting hit by it, just stay planted as a tank, and then I just fall around the bird, honestly.
Run away.
Kintaro also has an overhead slash, so just looks like cleave, make sure you're not in front of her. Azul's pretty much has the same mechanic, except it comes out in 3 missiles. Just want to make sure that you don't get hit by them. It leaves a dot as well. On Tyrannical Weeks, this will most likely one-shot you, so just make sure you're not getting hit by it. Last and final thing is when Kintara's up in the air, she's going to go ahead and choose a target to randomly throw a spear at. You'll see those on the floor here. Just stay away from them.
Alright. I don't know where that was going. None of them were in that shit.
Run away.
Nowhere to run. It's too far away.
I hate these bosses even on
Nowhere to
fucking...
run.
Like, this dungeon sucks.
Yeah.
I don't know how people like it. This dungeon is fucking closed. So first boss in Spires of Ascension goes down pretty easy. Single target not being, you know, our niche. So it does take a little bit longer, but that's okay. We do end up in the coming week get 20% to our single target ability, so that does end up helping. But this is pre-buff, so.
Your doom takes flight.
Like all our other videos, it's important that we, you know, mention that we're communicating with the group. So while my tank is actively carrying out his plan of the dungeon, I'm just gonna go ahead and type out to LOS. So hide behind this pillar. That way we can group up with the mobs.
I can get both. What do you want? Both? Oh shit.
Now this pack in specific is very hard to group, or any groups in general, you know, that can be hard to group. It's important as a monk that we help try to get everything together. So you see me use Ring of Peace often to bring things together. That way I can AoE them down.
Hot damn, you guys.
Now the damage looks pretty good here, but this was before I learned how to play Windwalker in this patch. Beforehand, we used to break mastery in our Bone Dust Brew windows and just spam spinning crane kick, but I believe that's not the case anymore. So I go ahead and opt to do the infamous, you know, spinning crane kick, whirling dragon punch, spinning crane kick now. And then also we want to make sure we're weaving in our jabs or blackout punches in between. That way we're not breaking mastery. Like, just walk away. So this pool coming up is probably going to be one of my favorites in the dungeon, or mobs like it in other dungeons.
Ooh,
just a ton of ads, 5 or more. And essentially what we want to do is move into our Storm, Earth, and Fire. We want to do our jab or our blackout kick, get to 5 stacks. Then I'm going to go ahead and pop all my buffs. So we're going to do the Bone Dust Brew. We're going to do the Zuen. I'm going to do a full Fist of Fury into a Rising Sun kick. Then I'm going to do a Spinning Crane Kick, Whirling Dragon Punch, Spinning Crane Kick into my kind of standard rotation, which is just going to be alternating that Spinning Crane Kick with either Rising Sun Kick, you know, Blackout Kick, or Jab. Another important note that I forgot to mention is after we get our 5 stacks of the Chi-Ji buff, we want to make sure that we're focusing our Storm, Earth, and Fire. So it's a big thing that we're playing the conduit that focuses our damage and gives us, I think it's an extra 16%. It's like 16 to 18% extra damage from our Storm, Earth, and Fire when they're focused on a target. So it's huge. Want to make sure that we're using that in our rotation. Now we'll go ahead and proceed with the slowest taxi service in the world.
Listen to reason, devils. The Kyrian must.
Yeah, you'll notice here all the whistles are from the Spinning Crane Kick spam. So essentially just lets me know when I break mastery. And on the same or similar pool, I would have probably dropped 40k if I did that the correct way. Always a little bit of spice with the double Goliath pull. Not exactly the hardest thing. You're just going to make sure that we're not overlapping kicks here, and that we make sure that we're, calling targets for who's going to kick. I think a reason why I don't enjoy Spires of Ascension so much is just because of the mobs within the dungeon itself. These Dark Raiders tend to just fly off and kind of seclude themselves away from other mobs.
Interrupt. 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 Interrupt.
It's too far away.
Now it's huge when you're doing this route in Spires of Ascension that you pick up the spear on the right side, so make sure we have a Kyrian in the group. And we're going to use that on a double pull up at the next platform.
I don't have a target. For eons, we have been told to purify ourselves, to let go of our...
I'm out of range.
I think a mistake I have when coming into this pool. This pool is that I don't use my Zuen Bone Dust Brew at all. It's a 1 minute cooldown for my Bone Dust Brew, so I should always be throwing it out. And then Zuen, when I have here, it's going to help me tick down the time. I think I was just kind of unexperienced and scared that I wouldn't have her for the next double pool. So always a little bit of risk that you take there, but in general, when running these, we want to make sure that we're getting the maximum amounts of our cooldown that we can out of a run. So, if we're doing a 45-minute dungeon, I need to look to be lusting 4 times. If we're doing a 45-minute dungeon, or a 30-minute dungeon, because I'm bad at math, I need to be using Zuen at least 10 times in that dungeon. That's not counting cooldown reduction or So this is our big spear pool. We're going to go ahead and grab just the birds that are padding, and then also the group with the Goliath as well. This is a relatively safe pool. Since we're using the spear, the only thing we need to realize is that on Spiteful Weeks, you gotta dodge the ghosts that pop up, of course, and then we just gotta make sure that we keep the Rebellious Fist cast that comes out of it. If you can do these things, we mop up the mobs, and it's GG from here.
Interrupt.
That didn't feel too bad. Watch out.
Now, I don't know what I'm doing here. I think it's just my personal vengeance coming out. I'm focusing the Dark Raider, and that's a mistake because the squad leader has an aura that reduces damage taken. So, Again, make sure you're focusing the right targets, make sure you know what these enemies do before you go in the dungeons. I clearly did not, but looking back, now I know.
It's too far away.
Might as well kill the shade.
I'm out of range. It's too far away. I'm out of range.
Damn, I feel like I did no fucking damage there.
I mean, this guy's got that aura. Shit.
I need to get closer.
Does he have an aura though?
Yeah.
I'm out of range.
Yeah, if you don't kill the captain first or whatever.
Ooh, I ran right fucking into that.
Trouble here, man.
It's too far.
Getting in trouble here.
I need to get closer.
Oh, I can do this to the Praetor.
Yeah, I knew that this whole time.
What? That were?
Yeah.
It was pretty obvious that you were best advantage. Should be good, right? Because of her.
This is where you meet your end.
It's too far away. I
You
need to get
cannot
closer.
match my
I hate this
alacrity.
fucking boss because her is in the
Shockwave.
way.
Is your downfall.
Can't see shit.
I'm out of range.
So second boss in Spire's Ascension is going to be a tank and spank fight. He does his Dark Stride, and what that does is he attacks a target. You see it go on the
Kinda
mage
like
there.
this.
The mage will go ahead
Shockwave.
and take a bleed buff. So you want to make sure that we're focusing heals on him at that time. And then where he
Watch your
ported
step.
from is where he's going to spawn these black portals that spawn the bolts or balls. Now these projectiles shooting from the orb will go ahead and shoot out one at a time,
Shockwave.
spinning all the way around it in all directions. I just want to make sure that we're dodging it. After the boss casts Dark Stride twice and leaves 2 orbs on the ground, he's going to go ahead and start casting a recharge. So that happens when he's out of energy. We want to make sure that we take him all the way to the other edge of the platform. That way we have the farthest distance from us and the
Shockwave.
orbs. Because he's going to start casting these orbs or shooting the projectiles, 9 out at the same time from the 2 orbs. So that's 18 bolts that we have to dodge.
I broke the mastery. So.
Now I tell my tank to run all the way across the room and then face his back towards the orbs. That way the party can look inwards. So if they were on the other side, we'd still be able to hit their backs as melee while watching the incoming bolts to dodge them. A couple things you gotta think of when positioning. But other than that, an easy second boss.
I think we'll do trash and then boss because it's trash week.
Yeah.
Watch out, watch out.
Now this is the third section of the dungeon, or the final stretch, if you will. It's my favorite part of the dungeon. I don't enjoy the first two parts, you know, first part being the long stretch, including the first boss, and then I kind of break up the second section into the side platforms and the second boss. We're going to go ahead and take on the squad leader here and pick up Woe as the relic buff. The reason why I want Woe is that we can skip past all the ads here and kind of transition into the third boss immediately.
Of course.
I don't have a target.
This run here is fairly safe. The only thing you need to make sure that we keep note of is we stay away from these auras that are on the ground, so the black auras. If you get clipped on the side of them, it will pull you out of stealth. But it's funny that I mentioned that because it actually does happen in this run. And so I actually jumped down to try to find the player, but just use your healer to mass res. It's got a 100-yard range. That's always going to be the safest option. So we end up still having enough time, and even if we don't, we can just run along the right side and kind of come to these pillars. That way we can pull the ads first.
Your defiance must be punished.
Spread.
So after cleaning up the side, we're going to go ahead and jump into the third boss of Spires of Ascension, Orifrion. This is a cyclical fight where he uses his anima to kind of cast abilities, and then once his energy depletes, the target is in a weakened stage.
Fuckery, yeah. That was just some hard-ass fuckery.
So a couple things with this fight, going over the mechanics. We have the charge stomp. The boss has 100 energy within the fight and goes into his recharge phase at 0. We can deplete his anima faster by stepping inside his hitbox, and that's going to force a charge stomp ability. This will deplete 5 anima from his total energy pool. And it leaves a heavy dot to all players, so you kind of want to be careful with it. There's a little bit of price to pay for depleting it faster. He's going to go ahead and use Purifying Blast, so this uses 5 anima as well. A random player will be selected. A circle will go ahead and kind of surround them. You want to make sure that you get away from all other players or that people aren't inside of that. This is an undispellable cast or dot. So we want to make sure that when a target is hit by it, we're using defensives and hierarchies, and that we're focusing heals into that player as well. This Imperial Ordnance is going to mark arrows over the players' heads. We want to make sure that we stay clumped as a group and drop them off because they do take up a lot of space in the battlefield. And then we're going to just get out of the blast radius. The last thing to mention is the burn phase at 0 anima. The boss is going to go ahead and become immobilized. It's going to additionally take 100% extra damage to this when as DPS or healers. We're going to want to pump all of our cooldowns into this specific moment. Try to do as much damage as possible.
No.
Those puddles left behind from the ordinances will turn it into these orbs that float towards the boss. This time we'll just send our tank in or a target that has an immunity to go ahead and soak all of these. If an orb hits the boss, it goes ahead and recharges the energy faster and then radiates heavy damage to the group. So we just don't want that to happen because we want to keep him in this burn phase as long as possible.
Stomp, he got a little extra. That'll do it.
You must
Kill him till he
be
dies from it.
annihilated. No, I can still
2 or slow and steady?
fight.
As I peered into Uther's memories, what I saw.
I think we just time the key, right? One at a time.
Yeah.
That way I don't have to worry so much about tone here. This is probably the portal I needed the least. I'm curious. And I just gate back to.
And this run here seems as we have enough time to, you know, essentially take our time. And we want to hit our first plus 20. We're going to go ahead and just do these mobs one at a time.
I'm out of range.
Now, going over the mechanic of these angels, easily this will be the hardest part of most of your runs, especially on fortified weeks like this one. Now, Lexus has Oppression, which simply increases the damage everyone takes. Lotos has Aura of Intimidation, which drops spears on the ground and it shoots 4 projectiles from them. And then Astranos has a charged spear, dealing progressively more damage to everyone as the fight goes on. Now, the kill order that I suggest for everyone to take would be Lexus, Astranos, and Klotos. This will allow essentially the first angel that you get to be a free one. You don't take too much damage from it, there's not many mechanics to do. So, you know, first one being easy, and each one after that progressively just getting harder. Now, you'll notice that in your runs as well, that Klotos is the hardest angel of them all, especially after inheriting all the powers that the first 2 angels had. So this is typically the point, especially on a fortified week, where you would use the final Kyrian Spear, and I've even seen some groups Celeste on this ad.
It's too far. I'm out of range. I need to get closer. It's too far away.
An almost real sketch.
I need a target.
The age of the Forsworn is at
I'm out
hand.
of range.
We're feeling pretty good going into the last boss. We have about 9 minutes left going into Devos. A couple mechanics here is that phase 1, just going to go ahead and cast Lost Confidence on 2 targets. We're only able to dispel one of them, so I would recommend dispelling the melee character, and the other one can just stay out of the blue bubble that you see there. Now, upon being dispelled or expiration of the dot itself, it's going to leave one of those black circles on the ground you see that the mage had.
Wow.
You just want to make sure that we're staying out of these zones. If we step in, we're going to take damage, and then also a dot is applied. Devos will also charge in a straight line using run through. Sidestep the ability, get out of the way. This will one-shot you in higher keys or on tyrannical weeks. Final mechanic in Devos' first phase is going to be the Abyssal Detonation.
Phase change.
So this is where this blue bubble comes in line. She'll go ahead and channel an ability that you essentially negate the damage by staying in there. You're still going to take a good chunk, so make sure that we're using our healing abilities and our defensive abilities in this moment. But as long as you're in that circle, you should get one shot. Now this brings us into phase 2 of the fight, or the flight phase itself. At 70 and 30%, Devos will go ahead and throw herself up in the air, flying, and she'll kind of spawn 5
Easy,
orbs.
boss.
You know, splitting them at random from the left side and the right side. Just gonna make sure as a group that we're collecting one orb and bringing them into that center console. At that point, a pole arm becomes available that the tank typically can pick up and throw it at Devos to bring her back down to the floor. Pretty easy, pretty straightforward. The thing is, there's a lot of those black circles that move from the top of the platform down to the bottom, and then reversely, if they hit the bottom, they'll go back up. So stay out of those circles, avoid them. We want to avoid the stacking dot there, and minimize the damage that we're taking. If you're a holy priest, at the end of these phases, you can use mass spell on the whole group to quickly clear out all the dots and kind of save on healing time.
I'm out of range.
Find shelter.
Guys, so this is going to be the end of the mini-series. This is going to be the review, guide, whatever you want to call it, of the plus 20 Spires of Ascension, our first plus 20 that we got done.
Phase change.
So thank you guys for staying tuned in, you know, checking this video out, and joining us on the road to the first plus 20. As always, guys, leave a like, you know, engage with the video, comment, and subscribe. Let me know what you think. Let me know what you guys want to see. Gonna let this video play out, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. See ya.
Phase change.
Dude, she stalled out. But like, what the shit?
I will strike you down.
Yeah, I thought it didn't register for some reason.
It's too far away.
Find shelter.
I need to get closer.
This spear shall pierce your
I'm out
heart.
of range. It's too far away.